On this week's episode, we talk about feeling like a burden.
We are going to talk about some circumstances where we feel like a burden and why we shouldn't.
So, stick around.
Hello, and welcome to Rare with Flair.
The podcast where what?
We can keep it.
The podcast where two best friends with the same rare disease are living our best lives. I am your host, Cassandra.
And I'm your host, Casey.
This is proof that we are not, I am not used to the new tagline.
We're still not over the old tagline, ladies and gentlemen. It is very, very, old habits die hard. It's
old
fine.
Old habits die so hard, and they actually have not died yet. So
they have not died yet, but it's pretty funny. I'm like, let's keep it in. Let's keep it in. And I think especially our OG listeners will enjoy that because it probably sounded normal as you said it, and then it's like, oh wait
a minute.
No. Somebody had to get old. It's fine. But no.
We won't say who.
Cass. I feel like you have a lot to update our audience on. I just made up that word. The audience.
Oh, I love that so much.
Before you do, though, our fundraiser has closed.
Wow.
For our bucket hats.
Oh my gosh.
Actually, like, secret. It actually closes in like 3 days, but it's going to be closed by the time this episode comes out. So we can't actually say an exact number yet, just in case we sell another bucket hat before this episode comes out. But I think right now we're at like 25. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much. Seriously. Like, we've said this before. We weren't super sure what to expect, but oh my gosh, you've blown us away. Thank you so much to everyone who's given. I feel like a lot of people who've given don't even like actually listen to the pod, but if you are and you have given, thank you so much. And if you were like, oh my gosh, I missed my chance, you can always still give to the Hermansky-Pudlak Syndrome Network, hpsnetwork.org. Yeah. Yep. And they have a donate link there. So, definitely if you are still interested in making a contribution, it won't get you a bucket hat, but it will help support research.
Yes, that's true. And I'm so excited to see my bucket hat, to wear my bucket hat, to hug my bucket hat, to
be
cry
my bucket
when
hat.
I see it, to be the hat.
Yes.
Yeah, honestly can't wait. But what are some of your life updates? I feel like you have more than me.
Wow. Okay. So, this past week from when we're recording this episode, I feel like it'll be 2 weeks when this episode comes out. I got to attend the CSUN, I think it's Cal State Northridge, but the CSUN Assistive Technology Conference in California. It was amazing. I've been wanting to go to this conference for a long time. It's kind of like an industry leading conference for like people in the accessibility field and also, people who with disabilities who are, interested in technology. It was so good. I am still like feeling very overwhelmed, but also highly motivated from that experience. I went to a lot of speaker sessions. I talked to a lot of really smart people. And so I'm really looking forward to like keeping in touch with some of those people and picking their brains. And I did tell a lot of people out there about this pod. So thank you for listening if you decided to jump in after CSUN.
Awesome. Yeah. So I love technology and I appreciate everything it does for me, but I'm not super like in the tech space. And so I had never heard of this conference. I didn't know about it, but Cass has shared with me a lot about what she experienced there and what she learned there. And it's like mind blowing. It's amazing. And I'm just, I gotta like brag on Cass. I'm so proud of her and
girl.
all the work she does. And she's so successful. All of you need to know this. And just to finally see her, to finally see her go to this conference was exciting because I remember when she was supposed to go in 2020 and when it got canceled.
Tragedy.
And to finally see you go and just to see you thrive in your field and in your like it's just so awesome. So it's been awesome to hear about.
Thank you so much. You're so sweet. I low-key networked on behalf of Casey maybe more on that to come, but
Yes,
I was really excited. Like, I was just
Cass
like
was also
hardcore
maybe-
in the networking.
Cass was also low-key helping my career move forward as well.
Look, it came up in conversation. I couldn't not,
Yeah.
all right?
She was like texting me like, I'm getting job opportunities for you. I was like, do it, girl. Network for me, girl.
Right?
Thank you.
Right? I
Thank
hope
you.
it pans out for real, but like, even if
you.
it doesn't, it was still just a really cool space to be in. I hope to be able to go back in the future. It's kind of an expensive and like entrance fee, and it's kind of geared for professionals. A lot of like people's companies send them, so that's kind of what happened with me. Like, my firm sent me along with some other people, but regardless, like, so fun. If you have the funds, or if you're local to California and you're disabled in technology or just anything, curious about accessibility, highly recommend that you go.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I don't have that many updates. Not that I've had a bad week or anything. It's just been kind of, well, actually, one of my close friends came in town, and she is
Yay!
pregnant, and got to see her. That was so exciting. It's always fun when people you don't get to see often come in town. Yeah, so that was fun. But yeah, I don't have like that much to update, but yeah, life is going, you know? It's
I love
good.
it.
And guess what?
love it.
Guess what, listeners? Actually, by the time yes. By the time you're hearing this episode, we are about to leave for the HPS conference.
Oh, yes. Oh, my
And
gosh.
we are so excited to not only go to the conference again, but to see each other again, because it's always a great time to be together again, of course.
Yes. Okay. I'm
And we
so
will
excited.
have to update the audience.
Wow.
On that.
First time since 2019. You guys. You guys.
Yes. Yeah. It's been 4 years. I often tell people it's been 4 years, and they're like, well, it's only been 3 years, though, since the pandemic started. And I'm like, yeah, but it had been a year since the one before the pandemic. So, like, it's been 4 years. Yeah. It's insane.
Okay.
Crazy times.
My Instacart guy is
all
messaging
good.
me. You guys, I am actively trying to get one of the products Case talked about in her last episode.
In our last episode. So that's a plug. If you haven't seen our last episode, or heard,
Yep,
that's right.
that's the
If
one.
you haven't, that's the word. If you haven't heard our last episode, where I recommend, we recommend things, but I recommended nail teaks. That is what Cass is literally ordering from Instacart. And I think it's appropriate to mention Instacart because that's kind of, you know, how we get a lot of things because we can't drive.
Absolutely.
Which is a fairly good segue for this episode.
Right? Oh my God, for real. But yeah, no, seriously, my guy was like, hey, does one of these work in the photo? And I was like, yes.
Yes,
You guys, right
so
before this
excited.
episode, one of my nails broke and it was kind of tragic. I like FaceTimed Casey for the nail funeral.
Yeah,
So
I saw the whole thing. I
was-
witnessed it. I was a witness.
it was an intimate moment, you know? So
It was very sad. But I'm so glad you're getting what I recommended. And yeah.
Instacart and Segway, like you were saying.
But segues. Yeah, so, you know, it's a little more of a serious topic. I feel like it's been a while, though, since we've done a little more of a serious episode. And we talk about our vision impairment a lot, and we're going to be touching on that here. But also, we don't talk about chronic health quite as much and, like, our health issues. And I think that also will tie into this episode. So it'll be maybe a juicy one. Who's to say, you know?
Who is to say? And I feel like some of our what I would think are maybe the episodes that I've felt most vulnerable while recording. I'll speak for myself, but I feel like you may feel a similar way. I feel like they're the episodes that maybe I'm proudest of just because I don't know. I feel like we're able to put something out into the world that is maybe left unsaid, or at least, you know, not like we're breaking ground here. I'm sure other people with disabilities have also voiced these topics, but I think also maybe for whatever it's worth, whoever you are listening, to give you permission to sometimes feel weird about something, or I guess feel a feeling that in this case maybe is unwarranted. Like, maybe you're not actually being a burden, but, sometimes it feels that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I feel like these episodes, like, they feel more daunting to do than, like, they don't necessarily feel as fun as some of the other more lighthearted ones we do. Like Cass and I have a calendar of like our scheduled episodes, and I looked today at what it was, and I was like, oh, like,
I know.
It's that episode. Okay. I was like, gosh, I have to like emotionally prepare for this one and like kind of mentally prepare for this one. I feel like sometimes we sit down and we're like, oh, this one's gonna be really fun. This one, I don't know about fun, but I do agree with you that no, it will be fun, but in a different way. I do agree with you though that like sometimes these are our favorite episodes, the ones where we get to kind of strip down and be a little more vulnerable with the listener. And I think a lot of you listening are disabled or, visually impaired or what have you. And so you might relate to what we're saying for sure.
Maybe. Also, I mean, I feel like let's take like a hot sec to self promo. I feel like another good one that we did like this where we felt a little vulnerable was the one where we together we call it the gray area episode, but it's actually has none of those words in the title. It's like the too sighted to be blind, too blind to be sighted. That one.
Yes, yeah. We also call it the passing episode a lot too.
The passing episode.
We have multiple names for it, but yeah, I think it's too blind to be sighted, too sighted to be blind. I think that's what it's called. That is probably my favorite episode we've ever done.
I think so too. I really feel like I don't know. I feel like that's part of what like this podcast is ultimately about. And obviously like we love to talk about fun stuff, which is why we named our show Rare with Flair. And we get to have those breaks between like the more serious stuff, but to talk about the areas that I don't know, are maybe a little uncomfy.
Yeah. And this one is definitely uncomfy. Like I feel a little uncomfy walking into it, but so I guess we could start with our vision. And
let's ease in.
Seriously, we're going to ease in. We're going to talk about our vision and in what ways we could feel like a burden in that regard. There are a few.
I think the obvious one to start with is not driving. That's like the easiest first thing that comes to my mind when I feel like a burden is, and we've talked about this in other episodes before, but like the asking people for rides or, do I do it? When do I not do it? And like when you ask the same person repeatedly, you just start to feel weird inside.
Yeah. And sometimes even when you don't ask them for a ride, sometimes even when they just offer, you feel bad. Because sometimes it's like a 30-minute drive, or it's like late at night, or it's like you feel like they feel obligated to offer. And then like I've had times where I've said like, oh, I can't make it tonight or something. And then they're like, well, if it's a ride situation, I can take you. And then you feel like they feel bad for you.
Yes.
Or... It's very complicated, actually. There's a lot of emotion that goes with that, and there's a lot of different circumstances of why you would feel bad, to make someone drive you.
Yeah, you're putting someone out of their way, you're taking up someone's time, but yeah, also, I feel like, oh my gosh, so I have a good friend who, she gave me a lot of rides in the past, and I think she likes to drive, so she would do that for anybody, but also... it was like a consistent thing, and like I really don't think she was ever put out by it, but it became like a consistency to the point that it was almost like implied, and then I just felt like I was like taking advantage of her. Like it was just so implied, and that our relationship has become her giving me rides to places when I need it. And that sucks. Like, you feel like you've got a glorified taxi, and I hate that.
Yeah, and you don't want to feel like you're somebody's charity case. Like, you don't want to feel like, oh, this person is, like, and I'm not saying this about that friend at all, but it's like, you don't want to feel like, oh, this person, especially if it's like maybe a church person or something, you feel like they're like, oh, well, I should do this because it's the right thing to do, and like, I need to be a good saintly person and drive this disabled person. And you can sometimes tell people's motivations, you know, sometimes it's like, I don't need you to be like my good Samaritan, like case for the day of like,
Right.
I need to drive that person and my mom gets angry with me because my mom thinks that I don't ask enough. Like, she's like, you need to like actually ask for like, because like I am kind of a people pleaser, so I don't want to put people out. So usually I'll try not to ask for a ride. And my mom has a point though, because sometimes I do need to maybe be a little more, okay with asking for things when I need it. But a lot of times I like don't want to ask for things when I need it. And then she's like, she gets frustrated, like, well, no, you need to be asking. But it's like, especially, it's hard. I try with my close friends to have a mixture of like, sometimes they will offer to pick me up. Sometimes I offer to come to them without, like, I try to make it a balance of not every time.
I
like,
know. I try. So I feel like some ways I try to push back against this is I'm not as much of a people pleaser as you are. Not that I don't care what people think, but
right.
I, as someone who value my independence, it's we've talked about this like infantilizing effect that not driving has when you're an adult.
Yes, absolutely, man.
And for some reason, I feel like when people do it enough, I feel like they start to see you like a kid.
Oh my gosh.
And like maybe, I don't know, like, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with that person, right? Like, with any person that starts to feel that way after a certain time. But also, like, that just feels crappy. So sometimes, yeah, I will intentionally be like finding my own rides for some periods of time so that I can kind of assert like, yeah, no, I can be an independent person. Like, I don't need you to give me a ride, but it's nice if you do. The other thing that I've done that my mom also, she encouraged me to do, I have like these like $5 Starbucks gift cards kind of around. Yeah. And sometimes like when someone's giving me a lot of rides, I'll either buy them food or I'll like give them this $5. So I feel like I'm giving back in a way. But even then, sometimes people feel like awkward about accepting what it is a gift. They're like, oh, you didn't need to pay me. This isn't a service. And I'm like, oh.
Yes. So I feel, I'm so glad you said that because I had a thing recently. So I try to Venmo people if they are going really out of their way and it's a long way that would actually require them to like spend money on gas to take me to this place. If we're both going the same direction and we're close friends, I don't feel the need to necessarily pay them every time. They're not my Uber. Like, I don't want to make it. But like I did Venmo someone recently, and it was someone I didn't know super well, and I wanted to do it to be kind, but at the same time I was like, I don't want to like offend them and make them feel like they're my taxi either. Right. I'm like, is this offensive or is this nice? And it's like a line of like. And then I also want to get back really quick to what you said about infantilization and stuff. And like, I think actually, like, seriously, probably top 5, maybe even my number 1 pet peeve of being a disabled person is feeling like a child. And it's actually an insecurity of, I'm very touchy about it. Like,
me too.
I get emotional about it. I get triggered by it. And there have been times where my parents have like dropped me off places because they'll offer, and I feel like so ridiculous, and like I hate that because they offer and I don't want to like not take that offer, and then also there will even be time, like my precious nephews, there will even be times where like they assume that I'm younger than I am, and I think there's a lot of factors. I think I'm disabled, also I'm single and I'm not a mother. I think that also is a because if you're married and you have kids, you're much more mature, you're much older than a single person.
That is always true in every circumstance.
So Cass and I have talked a lot about this. Being single and being disabled, it is a double whammy of you are a child.
I think the thing that slides the nail into the coffin in our case is that we're also close with our parents. Casey is like closer in proximity, but I hang out with my parents all the time. Like, we have a really good relationship, which I highly value, and I feel like is a little bit rare. But like they come to visit a lot, and sometimes, especially, it usually, these things usually happen at church, and not to say that like against anyone at church, but it's just the most regular social interaction that you get. And sometimes, like, I have snapped at people when they're like, "Oh, do you want a ride, or is your mom coming to pick you up?" And I hear it in such a condescending tone.
Yes.
And it's probably not meant like that at all. But I get
I'm sorry, keep going. I did not mean to interrupt you.
Oh my gosh, my Siri on my watch decided to communicate.
Calm down, Siri. Calm down. No, keep going.
I'll be like, my mom doesn't live here. Like, she's not always around. I get so offended because people think I'm just this little girl who lives with her mommy, and like,
yeah.
Plenty of people even live with their parents. What do you have to say to those people?
I'm dying laughing on the inside because this exact conversation is a conversation Cass and I have privately constantly.
All the time.
We constantly, now we're just putting it on air for other people to listen to. We constantly talk about this. And we're kind of getting a little off topic of being a burden, but I do feel like this is like an important thing to talk about, and we could do a whole episode on this as Truly. Is. But like, I do feel, yeah, people always assume I live with my parents too, which is funny. And there are people my age who do, and there's nothing wrong with that either. Like, right? It's like, but I do feel like like you said, I'm very close with my parents, and it bothers me because my sister lives in the same town as my parents too, but people wouldn't think anything of her living near her parents. But because I live near my parents, and I also like get rides from them, oh my gosh, like, you are a child, and it's a whole thing. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Yeah, and it is relevant just because, like, I don't know, people thinking that you're a baby then makes you feel like a burden on them, because then they feel this kind of like parental instinct of like, I have to take care of you, and like, no you don't, you don't.
No, I do feel like it goes with the topic. It does, because there's also the whole topic of like feeling like a burden on your parents. Do I use my parents too much? Do I get it's a whole thing. I feel like when you get older, you're supposed to help your parents more than they help you, and I do think as disabled people, it's not a bad thing to get help from your parents or from your friends or from anybody. It shouldn't be shameful. It shouldn't be something we feel shame about. But I think because we don't want to be treated as kids, we have this instinct to like rebel against any help.
Right.
And so that is a way I feel like a burden. And I feel like another way, I mean, if we can kind of move on from the driving, unless you have more to say about that. I think another way is just like little things like, hey, can you read me the menu?
Oh my gosh.
Hey, can you explain to me what's going on right now? We've talked about this before. I have had people in my life have negative reactions to me asking for those things. Like, they act annoyed, like, in front of me.
Yes, so put out.
And that makes me feel like trash.
Oh my gosh, there was a girl in college that I knew. And we ended up, like, we had a falling out. It was kind of a thing. But, like, this girl, like, she went to my college church also. And, like, we had a few different places where we interacted. But we were at, like, college church one time. And, like, she and I were, like, paired together in kind of, like, a mentor-mentee relationship. She was, like, older than me. And, like, I thought that, like, it wouldn't be so weird because we were watching it was, like, the end of the year. People were doing, like, cute recap things. And there was, like, text on the screen of some videos. And I was like, hey, what does that say? And she would keep, like, delaying the time it took her to respond.
Yes.
And it was the most passive-aggressive thing, and I felt awful, and I was just like, fine, I guess I just won't see it. It's fine. You know what, whatever. I'll listen to the cute music and listen to people's voices and whatever. I'll just miss out because I'm sorry that I asked you for something.
Yep. Literally same. I've been in the same, like, specifically with a movie. I've been like, what does that say? And they just like, they're like, what? And you're like, oh, sorry, I can't read it. Like, it's horrible.
And I know, like, okay, way early on, we had our Dear Sighted People episode where we talk about, like, it's so amazing when people, like, automatically do things for us. I will say though, again, it if it swings too far in the opposite way, now I feel pandered to, and it's
that's
hard to explain the difference.
Oh yeah, I know, and it really is. It is really those key people in your life. There's a small handful of them who do it the exact right amount. It's a small handful of people who understand to do it the right amount. But, like, it does make you feel like a burden when, like, there will even be, like, something going on. Like, we'll be at, like, an amusement park or something, and, like, something is going on. I'll be like, oh, what are they doing? And then the person just doesn't answer you, you know? They just, like, don't want to deal with describing things to you. You're like, okay. So, yeah, I definitely feel like that's another way. All those little moments of, I think the driving thing is definitely the biggest, but like, there are a lot of little moments of just asking for help. And you know, it's not like we're asking for help we're not annoying about it. Like, we're not asking for it all the time, but like the one time we do step up and say, can you do this? When you don't do it, it makes us feel bad, and it makes us not want to ask again.
Yeah. Oh
and
my gosh.
You know,
I'm thinking of like times where, have you ever tried, I'm trying to think of a really good example, but like, have you ever tried to like do an activity by yourself that you definitely thought you could do, but you're like in public and now it's taking like an embarrassingly long time, so now you have to ask for help, and now you feel like irritating for having done that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I can't think of like an exact situation, but I know what you mean, of like, you thought you could do it and then you're like, oh wait, hey, can you do this?
I feel like usually it's like at a restaurant or something, or like trying to pay for something, and I'm like, oh no.
Oh,
like,
you know what it is? I had this happen to me.
What is it?
It is when I'm like, if I'm at a big restaurant and I'm like, I need to go to the bathroom, and they're like, oh, like, do you want me to go with you?
That's it.
And you're and you're like, no, I can find it. And then there have been times where I've had to come back and be like, so I can't find it.
Yep.
Can you? Usually I can. Like, we've talked about this before too. Usually it's pretty like self-explanatory where the bathroom is. But there have been times, like there was one time I was at like a big outdoor restaurant with like, it's like one of those big outdoor spaces with like a bunch of games and stuff, you know. And one time it literally took me 7 years to find the bathroom, and I did kind of feel like a burden because I kept being like, which way? No, I literally felt like a burden because I was like, which way? And then finally somebody has to get up, be like, oh, I'll show you, you know. And it's like, oh, I literally like blocked that from my memory until right now that recently happened to me. And then the person finally had to be like, okay, I'll go with you. And then you feel bad. You're like, sorry that you had to like go with me, but like I literally can't find it.
Oh my God. I was with my mom eating dinner recently, like it was maybe like a month ago, and we went to this like really cute diner, and we had to go, like we had to leave soon, and I waited until like the last minute to want to go to the bathroom, and she was like, oh, hurry up, like we have to leave. And of course, like I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. And so like I like hurry up and walk the exact opposite direction. And I'm, like, walking around the other end of the restaurant trying to find where I assumed it would be, and it was actually, like, right behind our table, and I didn't know. And it was so embarrassing. I had to walk back, and I'm like, I'm really sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to do that walk of shame back to the table. Hey, I did. Or sometimes when you're, like, looking for the silverware, if it's, like, a place where, like, the silverware, like, the plastic silver forks and stuff, or, like, the condiments are, like, in a different spot, and you have to, like, go find it.
I've also felt that way. Yes. I have a toxic trait where I don't pick up napkins every single time I go through a buffet line, and like I always have to come back and be like, haha, where are the napkins? Ha,
yeah.
Oh
but, my gosh.
Or in like back to that, in the buffet line, when unsuspecting person to your right suddenly now has to audio describe whatever is being served. Yes. And you feel really bad, but you want to know what things are, and they're not prepared for this. They're not like someone you really know.
What's this? And then they always kind of go, I don't know. I think, and then they have to look, and then it's like a whole thing.
Yeah, I feel extremely problematic in that moment.
Love that.
And like a lot of these things with our vision aren't earth-shattering. They aren't major, but I feel like they happen enough times that it just kind of mounts on each other. And, depending on how you're already feeling in the day, like, you just feel bad, and you can't do anything yourself, so you have to constantly be bothering everybody around you.
Right. And sometimes you might be asking, for anyone listening, you also might be asking for accommodations at school or at work, and you might feel like a burden with how much you're having to ask for, or, oh, I don't want to ask for this, it's going to make me feel needy, or, there are a lot of different scenarios we could go down with this, of like how you could feel like a burden with a disability, even just the visual part. We haven't even gotten into like the health stuff yet, which is a whole other.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, another way, and this is very specifically guide dog user.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Me, like Romana and I together, we take up a lot of like horizontal space. Like, I would like to think that I am tall and thin, but also my dog adds on kind of the width of half of an extra person on me. And so sometimes when we're like in a really crowded place, I feel so guilty for taking up so much room. I just think people like, and I feel bad for Romana because like she's getting squished in a really weird position, but I just feel like gross because I'm like, I can't put her anywhere else. Like, there is no other place I can slide her. I try to like lean up against walls, but even then, like, you see like people having to go like sideways in front of you, and I'm like,
yeah. No, yeah. I mean, definitely. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Do we want to jump into health?
Let's do it. Do it.
All right. This is, I'm like fake cracking my knuckles. Like,
I can think of so many ways I feel like I'm burning with my health.
All right. Oh my gosh.
So, gentle reminder, we have Hermansky-Pudlak syndrome, which, along with the visual impairment, we have other health issues. And some of the health issues I'll be mentioning are not necessarily HPS related, because, I have some other things too, but just had to, make it clear for anyone listening who doesn't know much about us that that's what we're about to be talking about.
Do we want to, explain it really quick again?
Sure. Do you want to?
Okay, so HPS, form of albinism, we already kind of brushed on the visual component. We have a ton of episodes about that, so if you want to learn more about that, listen to those. But we have a bleeding disorder, firstly. So everyone with HPS has a bleeding disorder. And we bruise really easily, and when we bleed, it's, harder to clot.
Yes.
Did you? Oh, okay. Do you want me to do the whole thing? Cool.
You can. Yeah. Okay. I was like, oh, am I going?
No, you're good. I didn't know if we wanted to tag team or not. We're good.
No, you're good.
So a lot of other people with Hermansky-Pudlak syndrome have autoimmune diseases, most notably inflammatory bowel disease. There's irritable bowel syndrome. And
not to be confused with irritable bowel syndrome.
No, different
it's
things.
Worse.
But
it's a lot worse.
So a lot of us have chronic bowel problems and just other chronic kinds of inflammation, arthritic pain, whatever. And then many people with HPS end up developing, usually in their 30s, 40s, pulmonary fibrosis, kind of scarring of the lungs, usually results in lung transplant, on oxygen, that kind of deal. But it can be terminal. Yep, that's the word.
Yep, there we go. That's pretty much sums it up. And then we, I have other things too that I'll get into in this burden segment of the episode. But do you want to go first, or who wants to start off this laundry list of ways we feel like a burden?
Wow. Okay. Well, I feel like the most apparent way of feeling like a burden in health usually comes in the form of especially when I've been in a really healthy period for the last several years, and I'm really grateful for that. But when I have been really sick, specifically I've kind of Crohn's disease, so I've had a lot of issues with my bowels. I feel so guilty and burdensome for all of the things I have to miss, for all of the things I make other people that have been my caregivers miss, and for, frankly, what they've had to endure. Because, one, I don't feel like I'm a very nice person when I'm sick, but also the things that they've had to see of someone that they love suffer in like a very maybe traumatic way. Oh my gosh, I feel so much guilt about that, and less so now. I've gone through a lot of therapy and whatnot, but there's just, you feel so bad, and it's not like people in your life who are helping you when you're sick, like they willingly take on this task, and they want to be there for you because they really do love you. But you cannot help but feel so burdensome because you take up so much just space in people's lives with your sickness.
No, that's very well said. That's very well said. Cass and I, our health journeys have been very different. So, we've talked about that in past episodes. I haven't been through something quite as traumatic as that. And so I can't quite relate to like maybe as severe as that. But for me, I think one of the things I was thinking about is just like the general day-to-day, like not being able to keep up with people. So like I think of like when I travel and stuff, I simply shut down most of the time, a lot of the time, especially if it's a very like rigorous type of vacation. And like a beach vacation is a little different than going to like a conference or like a theme park or something like more like where you're really like, I always feel like I can't keep up, like I don't feel well, like my health, something happens, and then you do feel like a burden because you're like holding other people back. And it doesn't even have to be with traveling. It could be with like hanging out with people. Oh, I have to miss out on this thing tonight. I'm not feeling well. Or I can't make it to this thing that I told you I could make it to because I'm not feeling well. I feel like that, just the general day in and day out of like not keeping up, is hard. And then I had another one. We could go back and forth if you have another one.
No, I feel that a lot. I feel like having like vision impairment and also chronic health conditions. No, I totally feel that. And I feel that more acutely when I'm with people that I don't know very well. Like when you were talking about not being able to keep up, I was reminded of this like nervous anxiety I had throughout my friend's bachelorette. And of course, like I had fun still, but feeling the need to be able to keep up. I'm not really good at keeping up with people my own age. I have more energy now than I had before, but also even like last year where I was relatively healthy, I just like, I feel like I've got so many parts to me. And even on that trip, I didn't have Romana, like, who is another part that I love very much. Yes. But also, like, I got my colon removed years ago, which I've talked about before on this podcast, but like, have to make sure that I've got all of the supplies for the things. And I was like extra careful on that trip to make sure that I had all of my like clothes planned out. And, I took up as minimal space as possible, and I was ready on time because I'm always late to stuff, So, yeah. And I don't feel like anyone else maybe felt that need. Maybe they did. Maybe I didn't know, but to just, I don't know, be at the same level. The need to not be like too much. Like, the need to not feel like you're too much, right? Like, right. You want to feel like you can take care of other people and not that everyone constantly has to take care of you. Yeah. And you don't want to have to stop the group to do something medical, stop the party to, have to, I feel like another big one with me. So I'm just like I feel very high maintenance in my life. I'm just very sensitive. My health is very sensitive and it can fall apart at any second. So first off, my blood sugar it's always going to crash, and I'm always going to need like, hey, like I've had many times where I've been like
we got to get food now, wherever we are. And I have to like bother the people. I also very easily get faint. Like I very easily like dehydrate and get faint, but I also always need a bathroom. So like whenever I've been hiking with people before where I'm like, I gotta sit down, like I'm about to pass out, and like that's annoying. Like I'm so annoying. I feel so annoying. I feel like such a burden. I'm like, hold on guys, I'm getting dizzy, I'm getting faint. But then also I'm always the one, hey, I need to find the bathroom. Where's the bathroom? Can we go, we'll be on the interstate. Guys, we got to pull over. I'm always the one. We got to pull over. We got to go to the gas station, Oh, Casey, we just pulled over. Well, we got to do it again. I'm just very high maintenance. Like, I'm like, I need a water. Oh, I'm about to faint. Oh, I got to go to the bathroom. Oh, I need a candy bar or I'm going to fall over. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm literally, if you like barely like touch me, I just like collapse. I feel like I'm like a very like thin little leaf. Where like I'm just gonna break at any moment, and it's funny because my health isn't too severely terrible in some respects, but like anything can just like break me down, and I feel like you understand also, like obviously you understand this, even the stomach stuff even more than I do, like the debilitatingness of that, but also my stomach is pretty unpredictable too, and I could be like, so yeah, when I was talking, not to be too TMI, when I was talking about the bathroom earlier, I meant number one because I just always have to go number one, but also stomach stuff too. It's like, y'all, I'm not good. Do you know? So I don't know. I feel like I'm always. It makes me feel really annoying, and it makes me feel dramatic. Like, and maybe I am. Like, maybe I am dramatic. I don't know. But I'm like, I feel like I'm always falling apart, and I'm always like, hey, could you, like, even like having like jokingly the other episode where I talked about like passing the ovarian cyst, like I say passing as if it's a kidney stone, not passing, but like having my ovarian cyst rupture in the Uber, and I'm just like, hey, like, I just feel like I saw a really funny TikTok about it where like it was a joke where like it was a acted out scene, it wasn't really happening, but someone was like going into anaphylactic shock, and they were like, hey, if it's not a big deal, like, I don't want to, like, burden you, but, like, could you take me to the ER? Like, I, like, can't really, and it was, like, so funny, because I posted it, and I was like, this is me, because I'll be on the brink of death, and I'm like, hey, like, I don't want to, like, bother you, but, like, can you, like, maybe take me to the hospital? I'm, like, kind of, like, about, and I feel like that's my entire life. I'm like, hey, I'm, like, having an ovarian cyst in the back, if you could roll down the window, that would be great. Yeah, I feel like I'm just always annoying with that.
I so get that because I dehydrate really quickly, and it's very obvious when I am dehydrated because I'll be just like really tired, kind of low key, and I carry around my water bottle all the time, but even then sometimes if like I'm outside for a long time, I remember like I went on a date last year, and it was great. Like, I had a good time, and then like we came back, and like we were dating at this point, but like I was just like, all right, I think I need a nap because I'm just gonna go upstairs and take a nap, and you can do whatever you want. I don't really care. I'm just so exhausted. I cannot put this into words, and I had to like take a moment and drink my electrolytes. And
yes.
Just
gotta do your drip drop.
My drip drop.
Yes, the drip drop, man. Yeah. What bothers me about me is I just easily pass out and faint. Like both. I mean, sorry. I did not mean to say that. That's the same thing. I easily faint. That's the same thing. Passing out and fainting, same thing. I easily faint and throw up. I thought it was like
for emphasis, girl.
No. I easily faint and throw up. Both of those things I will do at the drop of a hat. And so that's always a fun time. Like, I'm always either passing out or throwing. I say always, not always, but like one time I was on a date and I threw up on the date.
No.
Yeah. I think I have like, I think I'm just like sensitive. I am an HSP, highly sensitive person. I think something is there with that. I don't know, but
and that also, I mean, for clarification for those who may not have heard that term, it's not just like emotionally sensitive, just like also kind of
right. It's like everything. I'm just
easily like overstimulated and that kind of thing.
Yeah. That's me. I wish I wasn't like that, but like
It just
can't really help
it
it.
just is.
It's just me.
It's wild, and it's funny when like you've gotten pretty good management of your own health in your life, and like someone new comes into your life, and then like they start to get to know you better, and like all of the little things that you do to get through the day, like no one really knows that but you.
Yes.
And then like you invite like a new close friend or like you're dating someone in, and they're like, oh wow, like kind of like surprised at how actually needy you are. And it really highlights itself when you're out of your own environment, when you have less control. Then people see like, oh, I need a snack, I need the bathroom, I need water, I need like just all of these like things to line up perfectly, or if not, like, okay, I'm gonna die now, like.
Yes, it's these things that people have to get kind of a certain level of closeness to you to really see what all you're doing all the time for your health. And I feel like that's why during travel you see it a lot, because generally too, like, you're out of your routine, you are a little more, you're using more energy, you're more like tired, you're more stressed, whatever. It's just out of your normal routine is when you would really see that. And it is kind of embarrassing, not embarrassing, but like when you make a new friend or you're getting closer to someone and they start to see that, it does make you feel annoying. You're like, I'm so sorry that I'm like being this dramatic with my health and all of this is happening and I have all these medicines, and then I'll have an asthma attack, like with the person. And I'm like, it's just like all these like annoying, it's like, sorry I'm being so annoying, as I'm like coughing up along like like
am I bothering you right now? I can go cough.
Am I bothering you that I can't? Is it bothering you that I cannot breathe? Cool. Even on our voice memos, like when I get sick, I like have like phlegm for like 8 years. So even on our voice memos, I'll be like clearing my throat 700 times, and I'm like, I'm annoying myself. Like I hate it, but like I literally. Finally, I'm not doing that anymore, as you can tell. But I was doing that for a long time. It's fun. It's fun times, girl. It's fun times.
It's the Wild West out here. But, okay, to shift gears and to not just be, like, sad about all of the ways we feel like we fall short or we have to depend on people in ways that make us feel, like, vulnerable or bothersome. Why I realize I have that tick now where I like click with my tongue, and I'm trying to stop doing that.
Oh, that's fine.
This podcast is showing me to myself. Okay, but how are ways that I guess maybe affirmations that we can kind of tell ourselves so that we remember that a lot of it may be our own perception. Sometimes we feel the annoyance out of people, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
But some of it may just be us, I don't know, feeling vulnerable, feeling embarrassed.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think a lot of it stems from our own insecurity about ourselves. And I think everybody has baggage. Everybody has things and quirks and things that you need to deal with. I follow this couple on YouTube, and they have a podcast they call themselves Squirmy and Grubs, but their names...
I thought you were going to talk about the Fry Life, which...
Oh, I love the Fry Life as well.
They're awesome.
And he is disabled, she is not. And I actually listened to a podcast episode recently, and I wish I could remember the name of it, but it inspired me so much. And it was Shane kind of just saying how he used to feel way more like a burden in the past and how he's worked through that. And it was super inspiring to me. And he was basically just saying, like, you really shouldn't feel that way. I mean, he put it into better words than I am going to right now. But I really think, like, we are not a burden, and the people that choose to be in our lives love us and wouldn't want us any other way. And they will go through maybe having to drive you or maybe having to do whatever because they enjoy your company and they're okay with doing that. And hey, you know what though? Maybe sometimes they will get a little annoyed with it. Like maybe sometimes even our closest friends don't want to come all the way and pick us up. Like that's okay too. Like sometimes dealing with other people's health struggles can be a little bit, I'm not saying that like I don't want to completely sugarcoat it and make it be like, no, nobody ever cares, you know? Because, like,
Right.
they might, like, that. Like, sometimes it is annoying if we have to stop at the bathroom for the 8th time. I get it. Like, you know? But, like, at the end of the day, like, they're happy to be with you, and we don't need to beat ourselves up so much.
Right. Yeah, actually, so this, I didn't actually think about this until now, but a good way to bring this full circle, at least for me, is the friend that I was talking about that would give me a lot of rides. I you know, I was seeing her a bit less, and like, she would still offer, but I would, like, have my own rides, and I think, like, she was kind of, like, going through a different, like, season in her life. But recently she started being like, hey, can I give you a ride? Because I feel like we had our best chats in the car, and I, like, miss talking to you.
Oh, my God.
And that was kind of the motivation that, you know, she wanted to give me a ride, because it was kind of the way that we got to connect. And in that way, it's, I feel like you do spend a lot, you know, that got me thinking, you spend a lot of time with people in the car. And it is a really cool way to be able to, you know, they can't really leave, and they have to focus on the road sometimes, but what else are you really going to do in the car?
Right. I've had friends actually say the same thing to me of like, well, I love singing to music with you in the car, and I love hanging, we get more time to hang out, and we get more time to, and I've had, even my dad will say that a lot. Like, he really enjoys our time together when he drives me places. And that's like a time we spend together. Like, we wouldn't otherwise be spending together. And I love that. And I think there are positive ways to look at things like that. And I think there are also ways to maybe mitigate, the shame we feel of maybe helping them out. You know, they might not be disabled. We might not be able to, like, drive them around, but, like, maybe that person needs help moving, and you can go help pack the car with them. You know, we can help. It can make us feel better by helping our friends too, or even, like, you were talking recently, you know, something like treating your parents to dinner, or, like, you know, doing things for your parents or for your friends that often help you. You doing nice things for them can make you feel like you are also contributing to the relationship, and you're not just taking, you're giving too. And that's why I do like to pay for gas too, you know.
I think, like, something I've been trying to do lately, and I don't want to talk about this in a way of, like, wow, look at me, I'm doing so many amazing things, but I've just been, like, I don't know, just something I've been learning. I've been trying to be more sensitive to when people are complaining to me about just their own lives and the things that they're overwhelmed about. And I try to maybe, like, not just give them money, but maybe, like, send them crumble cookies, or give them, like, a gift card to a coffee shop, like, they really love, because, you know, it's on their way. And I want to feel like I'm still able to give something, even if I can't necessarily, like, drive to you and help you physically. But it's like, it's, you know, help in context, or like trying to give it back in context, or even just, like, being very honest with people, especially when you're close to them. It's just like, you know what, I really value the time that we get to spend together. I really appreciate everything you've done, or I really appreciate you kind of being there for a hard season in my life. Or sometimes I've, like, told my parents, like, I'm really sorry for all of the health stuff that you also had to go through with me, but, like, I know it's not something I should be sorry about and that I can fix, but I'm sorry that it happened and that you had to experience it too. And I'm really grateful for all of your, you know, love and support.
Yeah, honestly, just, like, thanking them a lot. When people give you rides, to be grateful, and to say, really, thank you for taking the time to come out of your way. Like, one time my friend had COVID, and I sent her, it was a local friend, and I got, like, a shipped, like, delivery person to, like, drive to her house.
That's awesome.
And I can't drive. I couldn't take something, but that made me feel like I helped. And I feel like there are different ways to, like, there are different ways to help, that we can help people even if we can't drive. And it does make it harder. Sometimes, like, not driving, you're like, oh, I wish I could, like, take them dinner tonight or whatever. And I, like, it would be kind of hard for me to do that. And so, like, it does make it harder to, like, actually help. But there are other ways that we can help people and not feel like that, you know?
There definitely are. And I don't know, it's hard, but I think I don't know. There's always going to be times where we feel like this, and I don't want to, as much as we try to like, I don't know, mitigate it or remind ourselves that maybe they don't feel that way all the time. It's just kind of a reality of, I guess, being a human person, but also having multiple disabilities. It's just, you have to depend on people. And honestly, I think at least in my case, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe if I weren't disabled, I wouldn't get to value people helping me as much, because I would definitely be off doing my own thing.
Yeah, and I agree, but I do think that's the reality of it. As disabled people, we are going to need more help. We just are. But I do think it is part of being a human, of everybody needs to lean on other people, whether it's emotionally. I feel like a lot of my friends, I'm not trying to say this in like I don't want this to come off as like a braggy thing, but like, a lot of my friends lean on me emotionally, and I mean, obviously I lean on them too. But it's like, even if I can just be there emotionally, every human needs other humans for something. Like, they need them for something, and it's like, I do think relationships should be give and take. You're not like, taking like I said earlier, but like, I do think people are getting a lot out of us too. Like, we can give and so, like, I think all humans need other humans to rely on. It's just we might need it in different ways. But yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what do you say we do?
Slash our other theme song we've done before. What are we into lately? Bump. The little button. We gotta do the button. Bump.
Bump.
We haven't done What Are We Into Lately in a hot second. We haven't done it in a hot second.
Not even in a cold second, because it was the winter.
Right. Not even a cold second. Just not even in a second.
Yeah.
What are you into lately, Cass? What are you into lately?
Bump.
Thank you.
I'm trying to think.
I can go first.
I feel like
you can't.
Yeah, okay. You go first, because I feel like I already talked a little bit about CSUN earlier, and that's kind of the thing that I've been thinking about lately.
I will focus on books and music, because who doesn't like them? Some of my favorite books. So I've read like 25 books this year, but some of my
girl, that was my goal for the year.
That's okay. So I'm not going to remember the author's names. I'm just going to tell you the title. I highly recommend, for a nonfiction, highly recommend Crying in H Mart. Incredible.
That's on my list.
For a fiction, I recommend, it's a long title, The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. I thought it was so cute. So Crying in H Mart, really sad, but really good. The second one I just mentioned is super, super cozy, comforting, sweet, found family, like super, super cute. And just, it's kind of actually everything I've ever wanted in a book. It was as if the author knew my exact brain and wrote exactly what I would want in a book. Both of these books, I'm not going to say they're inappropriate, but both of these books are like adult books. So, and I don't remember everything in them. So, I'm not necessarily recommending to any of our children listen. I'm not saying, like, I feel like that makes it sound like they're super inappropriate. They're not, but they might have more more adult themes. So just be careful. I'm not like, look it up first. I'm not trying to recommend this to everybody, but anyway, love that. And then music. I've been into so much music lately, but I will say I've been really into Daisy the Great's new album, which Cass got me into. It is phenomenal, and
so good.
I've loved it so much, and I feel like there's been so many other albums I've been into lately, but that one I'm thinking of. Yes.
Ooh, I love that. I love that so much. So on music, so actually Case, who is a major Paramore fan, yes. I also really like Paramore, but she definitely is a bigger fan than I am. I feel like that makes me sound like I don't like them.
No, but like
I do. She just really loves
they're
them.
my top artists on Spotify of all time.
So like their new album that came out a little over like maybe a month ago, I think. Man, it's great. Like, she was the one who, like, encouraged me to listen
Forced,
to it.
encouraged, questionable.
Forced. She was like, she just asked me
I just kept
periodically,
being like,
have you listened to it yet?
Have you listened to that yet? Have you listened to that yet? I want to know your thoughts.
and like, I liked it on the first listen, but it really is a grower.
It's a grower.
It really is a grower.
It's a grower.
I you know, and I didn't dislike it on the first listen. I was like, oh, that's pretty solid. But, oh, man, it keeps being the thing that I want to listen to all the time.
It's just amazing.
And I have so many of the songs stuck in my head at any given moment.
I love it.
Another album. Oh my God, I did that again. Great. Another album that I have been really into for a while now, actually. I'm like pulling it up. Like, when did this come out? I think it was in December. Let's see. It's called Alpha Zulu. I don't really know what it means, but it's by this kind of indie popish band called Phoenix out of France. They have a lot of like really well-known indie songs from 2009-ish from their Wolfgang Amadeus album, which is great. It's great, but this album is really good, and it's great as background music. I love throwing it on. It's kind of synth poppy. I don't know. I think it's a lot of fun. That's something I've been really into lately. And TV. So I actually I was going to tell you about this earlier, and now here's the perfect time to tell you. I started watching, like, the newest season of Bob's Burgers.
Oh, love that.
It's so good.
Oh,
it's so
I need
cute.
to do it.
Okay, I gotta tell you, before we recorded a little bit ago, I watched, like, the Christmas episode that came out, I guess, last year. Wow, I think it might be like my favorite Bob's Burgers Christmas.
Oh my gosh.
It was so well done. It was sweet, and all of the things that Bob's Burgers is good at.
I love
it's
a
very
Christmas
charming,
episode.
it's witty.
Oh my gosh.
It's really good. I loved it. I was starting to get choked up. I was surprised. I was like, oh, I didn't think so.
That.
Oh.
Cass and I are also watching Bluey together, which we briefly mentioned before. If anybody is still listening to this episode, we're watching Bluey together. We kind of always said we would never watch like a toddler cartoon because toddler cartoons are very different than non-toddler cartoons. And I feel like whenever I say I'm a cartoon watcher, people judge me and think I'm like watching Peppa Pig, you know, or whatever. But Bluey is an exception, and if you've been on TikTok any length of time, actually a lot of adults, actually a few of my friends are watching Bluey right now. Like, outside of not you.
It is so good, you guys. Like, it's
so
really
good.
funny.
It's funny, and it's like,
and very wholesome.
And like, honestly, if I became a parent, it is like a rule book on how to be a parent. Like, it is so for the parents just as much as it is for the kids. It's very, I'm like learning lessons. I'm serious.
I know. Oh my gosh.
Just great.
I told my parents about Bluey once we started watching it. My mom came to visit back in like February, and I was like, listen, like, I have this assignment with Casey. We have to watch our 2 episodes and give each other our thoughts. And I knew my mom was going to really like it, so I was like, do you want to watch Bluey with me? She's like, I don't even know what that is. Okay. And we watched a couple episodes. She's like, I just want to live in this world. I just want to live in Bluey's world.
It is, yeah.
This is amazing. Yeah. And we've had, like, issues with our password on Disney Plus. It's been, like, a whole thing. But my parent, I've had to change it, like, a billion times. My parents will call me and be like, hey, I'm sorry to bother you. We need the password for Disney Plus because we want to watch Bluey. And bear in mind, they are by themselves. They do not have grandkids. Right. They do not have any young children with them. Right. It is just my 2 parents watching Bluey.
I love that so much. I mean, it is so wholesome, and it's actually really well written. And it's won a lot of awards, you know. It's like, it's critically acclaimed, too. It's a very good show. So we're really enjoying that. That's our 5th cartoon we're watching together. And not 5th and not final. We have a growing list. We will never stop. But anyway, I feel like this ep probably should come to a close now.
I feel like it's the appropriate amount of time for an ep.
We're good.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye. Bye.